Hello and welcome to Dungeon Notebook, the show. I know, right? What is this show about anyway? So this show is about, so this show is a new idea I had. I was looking for things on the internet that consolidated information about all the things I'm interested in. Something that looked at Kickstarters, YouTube videos, DM's Guild, and maybe had some interesting guests from time to time. I couldn't find anything that really fit the bill for me, so I thought, hey, maybe I could make it myself. So this show is about tabletop RPGs and what's gone on in that world in the last week. I have to say it's pretty heavily weighted towards Dungeons and Dragons and also heavily weighted towards Kickstarter. That said, there are other RPGs that I mention from time to time, and Pathfinder is one of those. That's probably enough explaining. Let's get into the real show itself. So the first segment of the show here is the Dungeon Notebook Best Bets. These are Kickstarters that I think deserve a look. These aren't necessarily things that I'm backing. This is all unpaid. No one has asked me to make any of these recommendations. And I'm only looking at Kickstarters that launched in the past week. That is from January 1st to today. This is going up around January 9th or so. And it ignores anything that was launched before that. So there are plenty of other good Kickstarters out there that had started before those dates. I'm not in any way disrespecting those campaigns. I'm just trying to focus on only Kickstarters that launched in this past week that are worth a look. Not every Kickstarter that launched in this past week is one that I'm going to mention. So the order of these is not in any way a ranking, and so let's get into it. The first item is a campaign called Rescue at Griffoncrag Pass. This is an adventure for D&D 5th edition. This is the first project from Chad Lynch, who is apparently a dentist by day. This is a nautical adventure from takes your characters from 1st level up to 5th level. I like the artwork here, and it looks like some really great maps. So this is something that might be of interest to you. So our second best bet is Vastral's Guide to Magical Oddities for 5th edition. This is a supplement of magic items, as the title suggests. And if I didn't mention before, there'll be links to all these projects in the description below. This is the 10th project from the Grinning Frog. What I like about this is it wasn't just a dump of stat blocks for magic items. Instead, the approach here is that there's going to be some lore for each of these items, including the origin, where this item may have originated, how it was created, how it changes over time, how you might make repairs to this item if it were to be damaged in some way. Just a very rich set of content for each item, and that I think is a great approach and something you don't see very often in your typical list of magic items. The third project on my list of best bets is Limitless Encounters Volume 3. This is a supplement from Limitless Adventures. This is their 17th project. I happen to have Volume 1. What I like about this project is that the organization of this book, which from what I found in Volume 1, I'm quite sure is going to be the same in Volume 3, it's really useful the way that the encounters are grouped by, I guess you could call it biome. We've got grasslands, forest and swamp encounters all grouped together, and then that coupled with the index, which if you're looking for an encounter, practice talking today, if you're looking for an encounter for a particular kind of monster, you can look that up in the index and then find what encounter they may have written out for that particular monster. The fourth project on our list of best bets for this week is the Chronicles of Aeres. This is a classical fantasy setting for 5th edition. This is the first project by creator Greg Lambert, and this is a setting, so clearly it's something, if you're in the market for a setting, this is worth taking a look at. One thing that confused me at first was at the top of the page, this artwork that looked a bit like a kangaroo, but I scrolled down, there's more representative artwork below, and it has sort of a comic book style of art, which I happen to like quite a bit. I thought this was a pretty worthy project. And being I have sort of a soft spot in my heart for people doing their first project, having done my own first project not that long ago. So you might take a look at this and help out Greg Lambert and bring this project to life. Okay, that's the end of our best bets. That brings us to the Dungeon Notebook pick of the week. because I haven't done this before, I'll explain what that means. Pick of the week is something that I'm backing. Sometimes I might have a pick of the week that I'm not backing. The only reason that would ever happen is because of budgetary constraints. It's going to be a problem for me, I think, to back something all 52 weeks of the year. But I wanted to start the year out right, so here's this particular project I've backed. And what is it? It's the Mythos Monsters 40 plus Lovecraftian horrors for D&D 5e. This is the 12th project from Legendary Games. And I really like the art style and real professional layout that we're seeing here in the campaign page. One sort of thing that's not quite perfect about this campaign is that there are some additional PDF add-ons, but you've got to like do the math yourself and add that onto your pledge, which I'm not a fan of doing it that way. I like the add-ons feature that they've recently added to Kickstarter, but you know, math's not that hard. So I'm definitely picking this up. I've backed it already. I'm probably going to bump my pledge up to get the card game that they included. They have a pretty interesting card game. There's a how to play video on YouTube. And yeah, so this looks good to me. It's my pick of the week. So I'm still figuring out the format of this show, and one thing I should mention is that actually wasn't the last best bet. I have more best bets. They just are now not D&D specific. So that first bunch was all of the D&D specific Kickstarters in my best bets list and my pick of the week. It brings us now to some other campaigns that are not D&D specific. So the first one is an accessory that is a dice vault. And this dice vault looks really nice. I happen to own a Wormwood dice vault. This dice vault I'm looking at here has more space. Looks like it's got room for more dice than the one I have from Wormwood, which you're probably all familiar with. This is the 7th project from Stevens Woodworks, and so it's likely that he's going to be successful in terms of fulfillment. I think it's already funded. The artwork that's available to have engraved on the front of these dice vaults is really pretty fantastic. So I like this a lot. Okay, so moving on to some more best bets. These are in the minis category. There's 2 projects here, and the first one I want to call your attention to is Eldritch Century 3D printed miniatures and tales. This is the 3rd project by Lair. This is obviously, as I said before, not a D&D based project. And what's interesting here is that these minis are pretty great. I mean, check out this guy with a ginormous big arm that's dragging along the ground. I want that to be one of my big bad monsters in a campaign. Not only is this interesting to me just because of the minis, but this game, Eldritch Century, happens to be a tabletop RPG in itself. And I didn't know about it before, and I was looking through this campaign, and it's pretty interesting. So if you're in the market for a different non-D&D, non-Pathfinder tabletop RPG, Eldritch Century looks pretty cool. If you're tired of plain black plastic bases or tired of taking those bases and making your own designs on them, then this project might be for you. These are 3D printed bases that are pretty cool looking. There's 1 or 2 sets that would be of interest to me because they're fantasy RPG related, whereas the others are more of sci-fi and Wild West. So depending on what kind of genre, let's say, your minis happen to be, you may find more things of interest here. But I thought this was a pretty interesting project. I don't have a 3D printer, so I'm not in the market for this one. But if you have a 3D printer, this is kind of cool. So now we're really done with best bets, but I do have 2 more projects that are honorable mentions that I'd like to call your attention to. One is called Mystic Libations. This is an RPG-inspired, this is a book of RPG-inspired cocktail recipes, which is, kind of fun. So that might be of interest to you. And the last honorable mention is Immortal King's Fantasy, Forces of Night. This is the 6th project from James Franzen. It's got 22 days to go before it reaches the end of the campaign, and I'm watching this one. There's a couple of interesting minis, the Lurking Terrors. At the moment, only the concept art is being shown on the page. But I think that they're working on putting together the sculpts, the renders of the sculpts, and so I want to see what those look like. And depending on how that comes out, I might back this project. All right, moving on with the show. We're done with the Kickstarter stuff and moving on now to the DM's Guild. I don't have a name for this segment of the show. Suggestions, I'm taking them. If you've got any ideas, would love to hear it. So the thing with the DM's Guild is it's kind of a mess. I've looked at every single project posted to DM's Guild since the first of the year, and there's all kinds of just crazy homebrew stuff that people, it's kind of like a dumping ground. People just take whatever their ideas are, throw it on DM's Guild and see what sticks, because maybe they'll get some money out of it. There's definitely good content up there, but there's a lot of noise. That said, my initial intentions were to try and summarize all the things and say there were X number of new supplements on DM's Guild this week, and a certain number of maps and class, new class rules, things of that sort. But it's just chaos. So it's really hard to boil the DM's Guild stuff down into something for a show like this. But I've got a few things I want to call your attention to that are on the DM's Guild. Okay, first, Squall Hunter's Reckoning. This is a swashbuckling 5th edition one-shot that I thought looked pretty interesting. Granted, there are other adventures that were launched in this past week. This one just looked like it might be the highest quality and was one of the few that was specifically a one-shot. All right, second item from the DM's Guild. Tokens of Horror Volume 1, Curse of Strahd, Death House. So there's 16 tokens in this collection it's about $4, which honestly is pretty pricey, but they're nice looking tokens. The artwork here was really good. And so if you're playing in a virtual tabletop environment and you're playing Death House or plan to play it, you might want to take a look at these tokens. They are on the expensive side. I probably said that just a second ago, but yeah, I'll say it again. They're on the expensive side. All right, fourth item from the DM. Third. I can't count. The third item from DM's Guild, and I think the last, is called A Malibara Story. Now, I'm calling this one out because it struck me as being very distinct from just about everything else that was posted this last week. This is specifically a D&D adventure for kids. There's really just not very much content that's suitable for young kids in the D&D world. So this, I think, would be pretty useful to parents out there who are looking for something that's kid-friendly to play D&D with kids. All right, that's it for YouTube. We're moving on to... let me try that again. All right, that's it for the DM's Guild. Moving on to the next segment. This is about YouTube. So I subscribe to a bunch of YouTube channels that have tabletop RPG content, and I've looked at everything of the people I subscribe to. I've looked at all their content that was posted in the first week of January, and here's some of the things I think you should take a look for. First, I'm not sure how to say his last name, Guy Scandlers, maybe, on the How to Be a Great GM channel. Has a good video. He has a couple videos out this week, I think two. The one with a long title, Easy Tips to Free Yourself as a Game Master, Accents and Performance. That one is pretty good. That said, it's a slow start. I watched this one in I watched a little faster than that, but watch it at 1.5 speed. And when you get in the little ways, there's some really great tips for how to do voices. Meaning that if you don't feel comfortable with doing some kind of, which is my case, doing some kind of funny voice, he gives you some techniques for how you can do that without having to be a voice actor, which I thought was pretty good. Good, cool, one of them. The next video I want to talk about is from Ginny D. She posted a video this week, 10 tips for shy role players. And interesting enough, in the beginning of her video, she admits that she herself is not a shy role player, but that she talked to several folks that she thinks of or admit to be, or confess to be, shy role players, and they gave her some advice, which I have to say was really solid advice. I took a look through the whole video and thought it was excellent, so this is worth your time. Next video is from Nerd Immersion. This is more of like a news channel as far as I could tell. I haven't watched too many of the videos at this point, but this one was of interest to me because there was some speculation about what the next D&D book might be. If you're watching this in the future, you probably already know what that is, but it's going to, there'll be an announcement, I guess, from Wizards on the 12th of January, and that will be what this new book is going to be, including the name of it. Yeah, which I just almost said. No, not that I almost said the name of the book, but I almost said the words, the name of the book. Anyhow, you know what I mean. So, I'm not going to spoil it by telling you what the speculated about here in this video, but check it out. I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, and that brings us to D&D Beyond. They had 5 videos posted this week, and I didn't watch these, I have to admit, but there was 4 of them that were all on the topic of Session 0 and social contracts. And so if you're getting started in a new campaign, this is probably worth your time to take a look at these videos. It's about 4 hours worth of content, all about Session 0 and social contract kinds of things. And I'm sure that there's lots of good advice in there. And this is really the only things that are relevant when you're getting started for the most part. If you have an established group, most of these things are probably already in place, so maybe less interesting to you. But if you're going to be starting a new campaign soon, you should take a look. Okay, that brings us to the honorable mention section of this YouTube segment. There are three folks made it to the honorable mentions this week. Dungeon Dudes and Nerdarchy, both of them have various min-max or optimize your character videos up. Quite a handful of them on Nerdarchy that came out this week. That's not really my playstyle, so these aren't things of interest to me, but if you're a min-maxer, there's a bunch of new stuff from Dungeon Dudes talking about best spells for a paladin, and Nerdarchy just has a bunch of various optimization, character optimization videos out. There's about 4 or 5 of them. Last honorable mention, Black Magic Craft. Normally, I really love the stuff on this channel. He does some great terrain crafting. This particular video that came out this week was a little bit more advanced stuff than I'm into. He's using an airbrush and some inks and other things, and that was just, whew, yeah, too much for me. But if you have an airbrush and you've worked with inks before, then you may find that video useful. He certainly made some really cool looking stuff. So check that out. Okay, so that's it for this inaugural edition of Dungeon Notebook, the show. If you like the show, you want to help me out, hit the like button, subscribe, that would be fantastic. You should also follow me over on Facebook and Twitter. Those are my only social channels at the moment. And, oh, by the way, I sell notebooks, dungeonnotebook.com. I've got notebooks for recording all your character information for D&D and for Pathfinder, so head over to dungeonnotebook.com to check those out. And that's the show for this week. So if you found this interesting, useful, want me to keep doing it, let me know in the comments. That would be much appreciated. And all the links for the stuff I talked about today also in the comments, so you don't have to remember the names of the things that I said. You can just click on them down there. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to keep up the schedule of doing this every week, but we'll see how it goes. So I'll see you next week, maybe.